Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are joined by the co-founder of Health Navigators, Liz Curran, joining us once again here to talk about the work she does with Health Navigators. And as a holistic cancer health coach, she is certified, and there's a lot that she can do to help you, let alone her podcast that helps so many people with her radical remission and private coaching. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself before we begin today?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back. So I am a radical remission health coach. I work with the Radical Remission Project, training other health coaches to work with cancer patients to help educate them on the 10 lifestyle factors that came from our research, which we can share in a little bit. But yeah, we do some one-on-one coaching and some group coaching to help people adopt lifestyle change when they're struggling with living with a life-changing diagnosis.
Perfect. I know. And you've done so much. You've shared your story, your journey. Could you just tell us a little bit about what happened to you? How you were inspired to start this career?
Sure, absolutely. So having lost my sister to cancer 10 years ago, and then another friend with a very different cancer journey a few years later, I kind of had this crash course in working with people that are living with these kind of really transformative experiences. And so I found myself as a health coach, later then found myself as a cancer health coach, because I really felt that I wanted to help people work through all the big things that come along with it, having a diagnosis.
Well, thank you for being here and for us to reach out to you. Could you share that website, please?
Sure, absolutely. People can find us at the Health Nav. We are the Health Navigators, our
Yep.
company.
hmm
And the website is healthnavs.com. So healthnavs.com.
And you said this is our last show today?
It is. It's our last time together for now.
Bittersweet, bittersweet. Well, we've
Right.
had some great discussions.
Yeah.
And for today, how did you kind of want to, piggyback on all of that? And what did you have in mind for your listeners today? I'm not sure, so I'll just ask you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it would be really helpful. We've gone through in previous episodes the different healing factors, so I can
hmm
just kind of name them, just so if we have new listeners that can hear that. And then I
Sure.
really want to showcase how we use that in our practice and some of the ways that they have really shown beautifully in some client experiences.
Awesome. Let's begin.
All right. So the 10 healing factors from radical remission are and the Radical Remission Project did research on these to find that these were the 10
Sorry.
things that over 1,500 different cancer patients used to find healing
Okay.
outside of traditional treatment.
Okay.
So some used traditional treatment, some completely alternative approach, but these 10 things can be used with any kind of treatment plan.
Okay.
So we have three: physical: exercise, changing diet, and having herbs and supplements prescribed to you from a licensed practitioner. And then we have emotional and more spiritual factors. And we really like to showcase these because I don't think that as a culture, Americans typically think of these as physically healing also. So those are having a spiritual connection, empowering yourself to feel confident kind of in your own skin, speaking to your healthcare providers, working on those emotions, increasing positive emotions, and then also releasing suppressed emotions, tapping into your intuition so that you can follow that down your healing path to help you make decisions. And then we have purpose and having strong reasons for living and
hmm
increasing social support. So having a really strong social support system. So those 10 factors together were used by every case that was researched and interviewed during the research process back in the early 2000s, and have been since published in the book Radical Remission. And that book was such a success, became a New York Times bestseller. And then everybody who read the book wanted to know, how can I implement these things into my life? So the author, Kelly Turner, who is my colleague, created a workshop, and we all teach those of us who are trained as radical remission coaches teach that workshop to highlight how people can use these healing factors in their own life.
hmm
And with that, we are all also health coaches. So we have the ability to work one-on-one and in groups with people to really learn how to embody these very, very individually.
Thank you. All right. What else is on the list?
So we are going to go. Let's dive into a little bit about. So those 10 healing factors are really lifestyle changes.
I
Each
was gonna
one of
say.
them is very different than the other and has a whole set of practices that kind of support it. So the paths are so different for everyone. You know, exercise, for example, we sometimes we just have to categorize that
Mm-hmm.
as movement because not everybody that's dealing with cancer is out, running a 10-mile run or going to the gym. So movement is very important and being active, more and more active as you can. So again, when we're working with clients, that could look very different for everyone. So we want to make sure that's just one example of how all of these factors really are so diverse in the approach. So having a private coach or even a small group coach is really helpful. So you kind of get that more one-on-one experience that's customized to what your needs are.
Got it. All right. Thank you for that. Interesting because yeah, I was going to say that with the 10 steps, it's how do you enact? How do you, start,
Right.
yeah, start doing them. Okay.
Yeah, and you know what we have found in our practice? So my partner Carla and I have been practicing for 4 years since 2020. We were trained by Radical Remission in 2019, and then when the pandemic hit, we moved to a strictly virtual approach. So we do all of our coaching virtually, and what we found over the years working with so many different people is that there are four things that we call them our four pillars
Mm-hmm.
to really make sure people have these solid before they dive into making lifestyle changes. And they're just really nice practices. So I'll share those with you now. The first one is developing a self-compassion practice. And not a lot of people really know so much about self-compassion. It is an element of self-love, but it is not we have all kinds of buzzwords these days. We have self-care, we have self-love, but self-compassion is unique in the way that it really allows each individual to really connect deeply with themselves and have a compassionate attitude. So really looking at your life as if you were looking at it being your best friend's life. So if you're looking at it as if it weren't you, would you approach things differently? Would you be kinder to yourself? Would you speak
Yeah,
differently to yourself if you were in fact thinking of it as like
true.
the same tone as talking to a friend? So that's really important because you have to value yourself if you want to make these kinds of changes.
Got it. You really do. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. This
Yep.
is good. Is this one of your podcast discussions lately? What was the last
Yes.
one? What did you have this week?
Well, our new season kicks off next week on Wednesday, April 3rd, and we will have our first episode for season 2. It's our second season. We're really excited about. And actually, what we will be adding to the podcast this season is we have our healing stories that we have every Wednesday that get released, and then on Mondays we're going to have our coaches kind of factors in action, where Carla and I just come on our own and we do individual podcast episodes really diving into these kinds of things that come up in the interviews and helping people really understand what they are and how that they can implement them. So we are excited to add that into the podcast. And yes, self-compassion will be one of those topics. Another one of those topics that I am really passionate about with helping women and men find their voice in setting boundaries.
Got it.
So setting healthy boundaries was very hard for me. And when I found the information, I was reading books, I was doing, workbooks and journals and absorbing all of this information. And it was so powerful and transformative to me to help me find my voice. And it was after I had done the work in self-compassion to allow myself to prioritize myself. And then I was able to set boundaries with people that might have been hard to do in the past if I wasn't prioritizing my own well-being.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Does that resonate at all?
It does, of course, doesn't it
Yeah,
all? I
right.
love this. Do you people
Right.
call in on your show as well? Do you have?
No, no. Although I occasionally I'll get to hop on to other people's podcasts and
Yeah.
summits and different things, and I get to do those live. I love doing live Q&A so much because it's just so much fun to be able to talk to people about, questions on the spot. I love that kind of stuff. So
Uh,
feel free to reach out and quiz me live.
no, I like it. I love that when we get callers and stuff here,
Yeah,
sometimes you open up the phone lines as well. It's so cool because you hear what people
yeah.
are thinking, what they want to know
Right.
about. We're organic, we're here together, but it's good to bring someone else into the mix to chat with
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, especially these topics because they really hit home. Not to say men don't need this kind of work because absolutely they do, but women take on so much between
Hmm.
that we're just natural caregivers and nurturers. It's that whole like hunter-gatherer, right? We are there we birth children out of our bodies, and there's so many different things that we do to hold the family unit together, in addition to having a career, or even just full-time parenting is a huge job. So there's so many
It
different things
is.
where we are constantly asked to put other people and other things first. And no truer statement than when you're on the airplane and the flight attendant says, put your own mask on before helping a small child or someone else. Because if you don't, you're going to go help that small child and you may pass out. And then what is the small child going to do if you aren't available because you didn't give yourself the oxygen first? So diving into that concept of you have to take care of
Mm-hmm.
you to be able to have the energy and the bandwidth to take care of others. And that doesn't just mean kids, that doesn't mean spouses, it means parents, it means friends, just being a supportive person. So when you have that kind of personality, and I will say there sometimes research has shown that there's a type C personality. We have type A and type B personalities, but type C is that kind of cancer personality where people tend to be people pleasers. So they will always overextend and say, yes, 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 I will help you before even thinking about what they need to help themselves with. So finding that self-compassion and learning how to say no in a kind and constructive way, it's very empowering to find your voice. And I remember there was a time somebody was asking me what I wanted to do for my birthday.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, I don't know, whatever is easiest for my whole family. And they're like, well, no, what do you want to do for your birthday? And I actually couldn't even think about what I wanted because I just wanted what was going to make everybody happy. So then I would enjoy myself. So if everybody was happy, I would be happy. But the question really struck me for months. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
why couldn't I think about what I wanted to do? And that's kind of at the beginning of when I started diving into this work myself, just looking at within and seeing, yes, I do have a lot of things that I need to set boundaries around so that I can really find myself in my way.
Interesting. Yeah,
Right.
boundaries. Oh my God. So what did you choose, by the way? Did you ever decide what does make you happy? Did you ever figure it out what you really wanted to
Oh,
do?
I love myself a really beautiful restorative yoga session. I live over in Collingswood area in New Jersey, and we have so many wonderful practitioners over here that just provide some really beautiful holistic approaches to things. And I just love restorative yoga. So if anyone asks me what I want to do on my birthday in the future, it is that. Just really nurturing experience for that day. But two other things that come up a lot before people can dive into lifestyle change is making sure that you have a really strong purpose. We do have strong reasons for living as a healing factor, but really looking within to find what is your personal soul's purpose? Like, why are you here on this earth? Because if you don't have a why, then the how doesn't really matter. You're not going to have that
Hmm.
motivation to really dig in deep and make these big changes. And what I will say is I worked for a few years prior to working with cancer patients. I worked in a gym
Yep.
and I worked out in different modalities of working in nutrition and helping people find their way in a nutrition wellness. And they weren't as motivated because now working with cancer patients, they're highly motivated. They want to make change. Their why is that they want to be here on this planet. When you're working at a gym and someone wants to tweak their diet, they're not thinking about this is a
Yeah.
life or death situation.
But if
So
we all thought about that now, would we be in a better place? Because
a
we're
hundred
doing
percent.
proactive and doing, I mean,
Yes.
not to say that you get cancer because you're eating poor, but there's so many different factors, right?
Right. And there's so many things, even just later in life, having like strong mobility and strong cognitive health and longevity, being on this planet, feeling healthy and sane is so important. And you don't tend to think about that when you're younger. But if you can implement these 10 healing factors along your life, even if you don't start until you're, in your 30s or in your 40s, those things matter as soon as you can start implementing them. Really, a lot of it is strong mental health, which is
Mm.
great for your whole life. But I do really think that it's important to mix in some of these things as early as you can so that you don't end up with the diagnosis, because these things help with chronic illness. They help with autoimmune disorders. We've had so many healing stories. People with ALS, people with Alzheimer's, they have healed. And they are not typically things that you hear people healing from. And a lot of it, unfortunately, um, a lot of those kinds of things occur after really significant childhood traumas that people don't have the ability to release or the skill sets to release. So when they then dive into these factors and they dig deep into their emotional state and finding self-worth, self-compassion, their voices, their boundaries, their empowerment, until they can release the past, they can't have that free flow of energy in their bodies. And a lot of times that can manifest into illness. And obviously, that's not to say that everyone who has had a
Mm-hmm.
traumatic childhood equals a disease later in life. But it does, I do see a correlation between that and the people that I work with.
Got it. And I mean, we haven't talked or brought up the fact that look at Kate Middleton, right? The princess at
Mhm.
42. She just
Right.
got diagnosed with whatever cancer it is. I mean, this happens to young people.
Yes, more and more. And I think there's a lot of environmental factors that are to be considered, which is why when we talk about the physical ones,
Mm-hmm.
changing your diet doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, be a vegan or do these extreme diets. It's just being really mindful about your sugar intake and your processed food intake and making sure we actually eat real food. It can be meat, it can be fruits, it can be vegetables, it can be whole grains, but it's really important to eat those things as clean as you possibly can. And, the nutrition coach in me would like to just share, if you eat a lot of it, eat it as clean as possible.
I
Because
mean, you say clean, you mean grown from the
like,
ground, like food, like farm to
yeah,
table? How do we say
yeah,
that?
like if you eat a ton of eggs, some people eat eggs a lot, and you want to make sure that they're not just your standard, $1.99 a carton. You want to get like the free range chicken eggs if you can, or try to get if you're eating something a lot, you want to try to get the cleanest version, whether it's organic or not. Not everything has to have that organic label, but you want to try to do your research and talk to the butcher at the grocery store and say, where's your meat from, or is this fish really, is it come from a crowded fish farm? And a lot of those stores will tell you, like, no, we really source these. We go to the source and we know exactly where the stuff's coming from. So don't be afraid or embarrassed to ask questions, even at restaurants. If you go to restaurants and you want to kind of go off the menu and cater to what works best for your dietary restrictions, I can't tell you. I've had dietary restrictions for 10 years, and I've never had a server at a restaurant give me a funny look for asking about a gluten-free option or a dairy-free option. They're usually so happy that we're willing to engage and ask questions, and they get to showcase their knowledge about their menu. Same goes for the butcher at the grocery store. How many people stop and talk to the butcher? He knows a lot about the stuff that they're offering at the store, the guy that sells the produce. So do yourself a favor and just like dig deep into what it is that you eat a lot of, and then try to eat it as clean as you possibly can.
All right, thank you for the tip on
Yeah.
that. We still got
Yeah.
a few more
Little
minutes
side
here.
tips.
What
Yes.
else? By the
So
way,
the last of our four pillars,
oh,
so we have self-compassion, we have boundaries, we have purpose, and then mindset, and making sure that you have the resilience to continue with that mindset, because especially on a cancer journey or people who have these life-changing diagnoses, it's a roller coaster. And you can feel great one day and then terrible the next, or you could feel great and then get terrible news, or feel terrible and have great news. So it's such a roller coaster, and it's really important to not get too high or too low. Really just take information in as it comes and develop a resilient mindset where you can take it all in and not find that your body goes into this kind of fight or flight mode immediately, and you end up in this fear state with just information.
mhm.
So, strong mindset, resiliency, though, that is the fourth pillar. And then when you have those things really strong, then we'll bring you in a private coaching group. We'll work with you on those four first if you need them. And then we'll guide you right into those healing factors, those 10 factors. And we'll ask people, which ones do you think you need to work on?
Yeah,
And then which ones do you want to work on? They're two different answers sometimes. And then we work with people, and we have 4-month programs that we do where we'll work with people for 10 sessions over 4 months. And we really want them to see a transformation from the beginning to the end of that time. So they really get that dedicated time. We need to meet them, every week or two to make sure they have that consistent accountability to reach their goals. And then we just set little mini steps based on what they're trying to work on. Maybe we'll give them a meditation to listen to for that week, or we'll have an activity for them to either do with us or for homework. And they'll do that work. And then we bring it back to the session and we have a dialogue about how what obstacles came up, what worked really well, how can we work with those obstacles and those strengths to get those goals fulfilled, so that by the end of that period of 4 months, we feel people are really ready. So I do welcome the audience. Feel free to reach out. You don't have to have a major diagnosis to work with a health coach. There are so many radical remission health coaches out there that want to work with people to share this information. And they're very accessible to everyone.
We love the accessibility factor. Thank you at Health Navs. And I know you're local, right? Well,
Yep.
close to us. You're in New
Yep.
Jersey. You're right outside, but you're close to Philly.
Yep.
But this is something that's affecting us worldwide. And is there any just about cancer? Because you heard about Kate Middleton last week, and then you hear younger and younger people being diagnosed, even especially with colorectal cancer. It was something on the news the other night about how a lot of younger people are like, just your take on this cancer crisis. I mean, you work with so many people who have it. Is there anything you've learned that you've gained insight that, can set you apart that you could share with us? Your take on cancer, your take on, being able to heal. I know you believe it's possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've seen so many beautiful stories of people that found healing and they did all the work. They did all of these things. And it's really, really important to respect that the emotional elements have a physical impact. They do. And the science is there to prove it. So if you are someone that is stressed out or burnout, or you have trauma that you haven't resolved, I highly encourage you to seek therapy. It's really, really valuable. If you don't like it, it's probably because you're not with the right therapist for you. And there are so many beautiful practitioners out there that can really help you unearth some of these and just have a different perspective, because stress does not cause cancer, but it can be a contributing factor if the perfect storm is within you. If you have a genetic history, or if you have environmental impact and you want to throw stress into the mix, that is a recipe for an unhealthy lifestyle. And you want to make sure that you take the time to handle not only the physical health, but also the mental health, because they are very, very linked.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. And you said this is our last time together here. So it's been an honor. I won't say goodbye. I'll say till next time, but
Exactly.
thank you. If someone wants to reach out to you, could you share again how we could do so?
Yep. Please visit us at healthnavs.com. That's healthnavs.com. You can visit us on Instagram and Facebook at Health Navigators. And on YouTube, we are at Health Navigators Official. And you can listen to our Radical Remission Stories That Heal podcast to hear healing stories from people who have overcome the odds of their cancer diagnosis or their life-changing diagnosis, and also healers who have worked with these people and have seen these at least 5 radical remissions in their practice. So
Got
you're
it.
hearing from people that really have seen this stuff work.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. Miracles can happen. And thank you for what do we have this weekend on the show? What's coming up?
Me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
On your
on the
show, your
podcast?
podcast. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Next week on the podcast, we have a woman who has overcome her breast cancer, and she lives in New Zealand, and she's got a
Amazing.
great story. So please come and listen, and we'll be kicking off our Factor in Action first coach episode on Monday, April
Perfect.
8th.
Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. To all of our listeners, stay tuned. We'll be right back with more. Don't go anywhere.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.